You've gotta stop doing that. Hello, it's me. I was wondering how much you love Halloween. Hi there, welcome back to my channel. If you've never been here before, that's okay. I'm Sierra Snow. Welcome. I hope you're doing okay out there in the real world. We have some new subscribers. Let's say hello. So for today's video, if you couldn't already tell slightly by my sweater that you can't really see here, yes, we are talking about the spirits inhabiting the Viper Room. Now, if you've never heard of the Viper Room, don't you worry, because I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory on the place. The Viper Room, as it's known today, is located at 8852 Sunset Boulevard in sunny Los Angeles, California. It's described as a landmark nightclub with a gritty vibe, showcasing rock bands on the rise, as well as a few headliners. It's open from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. if you ever get a chance to go visit. And yes, I am somewhat promoting the club, even though I have no affiliation, I'm not sponsored in any capacity. But there has been some talk over the years that the club and this whole side of the strip is going to get bulldozed to put in yet another hotel that no one has asked for. So I just want to keep the landmark alive. Yes, the place has got some really toxic energy and some really sad energy, but it's kind of like a part of LA's history now, right? So like, I don't want to see it go. Ironically, even though I lived in Los Angeles for about 3 years, I never got a chance to visit, and I'm so mad at myself because I literally worked 1 block over.
Hi, editing me. So yeah, I did not work 1 block over. I thought I did, but that is me forgetting how long the Sunset Strip actually is. The Viper Room is actually about 4 miles away from the hotel that I worked at, but I digress. I'm still mad at myself that I never made time to go.
So as you might have guessed, no, I didn't get this sweatshirt from the club itself. I had it mailed to me, so yes, I am a poser. But hey, at least I'm trying to support, and I really do appreciate that they ship to FPO addresses. Anyways, back to the story. What a lot of people don't know is the club, now known as the Viper Room, actually started out as a grocery store in the early 20s. And it's one of the oldest buildings on the strip. And it served its residents working in the industrial village known as Sherman. But by the 40s, however, the strip had a full-blown makeover. What used to be a dusty, unpaved route to and from work became the famous, or infamous, depending on who you ask, Sunset Strip. It's even rumored that the Las Vegas Strip was named after the Sunset Strip. The more you know. By the mid-40s, the location had turned from a grocery store to a nightclub, known as the Cotton Club, attempting to ride the coattails of the famous Cotton Club in New York. They even marketed the club in Los Angeles as the Harlem of Hollywood. Somebody had to sue them for that, right? Since they had no association, no affiliation. But I guess by trying to spoof the success of the New York club that had no affiliation, didn't really pan out. Because by the late 40s, the club was renamed and rebranded multiple times. The club in the mid-40s was known as the Greenwich Inn, the Rue Angel, and then a strip club known as Last Call by 1950, which has to be the most unoriginal club names in the history of club names. I'm just gonna pop a few up just for funsies. I mean, come on. To be fair, they were probably one of the first, maybe, because it was like the 50s. The last call didn't last long because by 1951, the club was rebranded again. But this time, the name stuck. From 1951 to 1969, the club was known as a cabaret club called the Melody Room. How nice. And it was ran by two brothers named Bill and Pete Snyder. At this time, the club had a lot of interesting clientele, as well as some diverse performers. I really couldn't find any of those lineups. Ironically, the only person that I know for sure that did perform there at that time was Bobby Short. That's all I got. It was the host to an array of notorious gangsters who visited the Melody Room pretty regularly. Now, I'm not entirely sure what was going on between 1969 and 1973, but the Melody Room eventually did close in 1969, and it reopened in 73 as Filthy McNasty. Nasty boys. Nasty. And it remained Filthy McNasty until my birthday. Not my birth year, but birthday. On July 30th, 1980. So it had a pretty good run. And it's at this time when the club is renamed and reopened as the Central, which is when it kind of became more of a rock club as we know it today. And it ran all the way through the 80s into the early 90s until the one and only, as well as a few others, Johnny Depp, purchased the location and renamed it the Viper Room. You would have thought that Johnny Depp would have named it the Viper Room, but it turned out that it was somebody else. Now, as you can imagine, the Viper Room became incredibly popular amongst Hollywood's young elite. It's also said that during this time, the patrons of the club were more famous than the bands playing at the club. The reason for this is because celebrities felt protected there. Apparently, Johnny sometimes would watch the cameras and decide who was let in and who wasn't. And it was so him and his friends could enjoy themselves and let loose a little bit without the prying eyes of the public, of fans, of paparazzi. And I kind of get it. And this is kind of wild to me. I had never heard this before until I was doing my research. I'm still going to say allegedly, just so whatever. Courtney Love is never going to see those, but it said, allegedly, that Courtney Love herself visited the club in order to be consoled by her friends after she found out that Kurt Cobain took his own life. But again, the young and the beautiful at the time felt really protected there, and it's where all of their friends were at. So where else would she go, I guess? Okay, so now that I've given you a brief rundown on what's essentially a 100-year-old landmark, let's get into what we're really here to talk about today and what keeps people going back to the Viper Room. The ghosts. As you can imagine, a building that's been around for 100 years probably has some residual energy, as well as maybe a few spirits or specters with some unfinished business. If you know anything about this location, you know every ghost hunter under the sun has or wants to go to the Viper Room. The most well-known crew that's visited the Viper Room and documented some of the spirits is the one and only Ghost Adventures. It's also been featured on BuzzFeed Unsolved, as well as a YouTube channel called Days with Jordan the Lion. Fucking long YouTube name, bro. And it's been featured in countless articles. But whose physical body has left the building? And whose spirit or residual energy is embedded in the walls and the fabric of the Viper Room? As you may already know, the most talked about and noteworthy passing at the Viper Room or outside of the Viper Room was of Oscar-nominated River Phoenix, who unfortunately passed away on Halloween night 1993, right outside of the Viper Room, unfortunately in front of his girlfriend and two of his younger siblings. One of his siblings that was there that night you might actually recognize, which is Joaquin Phoenix, who was only 17 at the time and had to make the gut-wrenching phone call calling for help that night. But unfortunately, help didn't arrive in time, and he flatlined right outside. River's passing was shocking to some, but not all, because some people knew that River was trying to kick his habit and had been clean for about 2 months while shooting in New Mexico and Utah for a movie called Dark Blood. It's said that while he was on this shoot, he wasn't appearing to have a hard time kicking the habit, but as soon as he went back to Los Angeles, he went on a massive binge with his friends. It's also said that when River was planning on going back to Los Angeles from this shoot, he was quoted saying, "I'm going back to the bad, bad town." Something else that I want to mention in regards to why River may or may not have been using substances at the time, trigger warning. One, yes, he was incredibly overworked, like anybody in Hollywood still is to this day. But River Phoenix actually kind of had a troubled childhood, and I don't want to get too far into it, but his family at one time was a part of a cult, and he did claim to be abused during that time at least once. And it's also said that by the time he started gaining notoriety and really started to make some money, that he was supporting his entire family. That means his parents and his siblings. And from what I understand, he wanted his siblings to have a better upbringing than what he had, and he wanted them to have a better education as well. So that's a lot for somebody who's in their late teens and early 20s to carry. That's a really big burden. Like, forget about being overworked in Hollywood and being overstimulated in the fame. That on its own is a really valid reason as to why people sometimes turn to substances. But to know that he had all of these family pressures to support them, as well as just maybe some unresolved trauma, it's not surprising. And again, it's just really sad. But as I was saying earlier, on October 31st, Halloween night, River decided to go out with two of his siblings, Joaquin and Rain, and his girlfriend, Samantha Mathis. And it was only natural for them to show up at the Viper Room, as him and Johnny Depp were really good friends at the time. While it's said that his siblings as well as his girlfriend didn't actually see him take any substances, they knew that he was high. His girlfriend at the time, Samantha Mathis, was quoted saying, "I knew something was wrong that night. Something I didn't understand. I didn't see anyone doing drugs, but he was high in a way that made me feel uncomfortable." It's also said that Samantha remembers coming back from the bathroom and seeing a bouncer shove two men outside, but she didn't realize that one of the men was River until he fell down to his knees outside of the Viper Room. When she realized what was going on, she ran back inside for help and to grab his siblings. But unfortunately, River passed away before help could arrive and was pronounced dead at 1:51 a.m. on Halloween night at the hospital. As you can imagine, this was incredibly hard on his family, and it ultimately left a really dark cloud over the Viper Room. But I guess the real question that everybody wants to know is River Phoenix's spirit still there? I don't really know. I like to think if River is still at the Viper Room, it's because he wants to be there. I don't want to think that anybody's spirit is trapped anywhere, let alone in a dark hole that is known as the Viper Room, because it is literally painted all black all the way around, inside and out. But I like to think that maybe if he's there, he's just popping in to say hello, maybe to reminisce on some fun times that he had there. I really don't want to think that he's trapped there. But some people do believe that they've made contact with him there. That's just my 2 cents. That's just my take on the matter. Feel free to believe what you want to believe. I just have high hopes that people can make choices in that matter. But ultimately, none of us really know, right? Now, while River is really the most famous person that we know of that has passed at this location, he's supposedly not the only spirit that's there, and that he's not the only person to die there. But while I was doing my research on this and doing the googly schmoogly, I could not find anything on any other documented passings. So outside of me going to a local library in Los Angeles and looking up death records, I really don't know how I would find this out, because every article that I could find on this location had more to do with River's passing and the little bit of history that people know about it. But like I said, other than that, I didn't see any other recorded or reported deaths here outside of a couple of rumors. But remember me saying that this used to be a hot spot for notorious gangsters? Some of them included Mickey Cohen and Bugsy Siegel. I don't really know who that is, but whatever. The reason why I bring this up is all to say that we really don't know what may have happened there, because there's not going to be death records of that, right? These people are just kind of going to go missing and then never heard from again. Which brings me to my next point, that there may or may not be someone else who went missing who might be haunting the club. One of the co-owners went missing back in 2001. That's right. And some people think that he too is haunting the Viper Room. So, back in 2001, one of the co-owners, Anthony Fox, was suing all the other co-owners, including Johnny Depp, accusing them of funneling millions of dollars from the club. So before the court date and before Anthony could testify, he disappeared. On December 19th, 2001, Fox went missing. And 19 days later, his car showed up over 300 miles away in Santa Clara. But he was never seen or heard from again. Johnny said, "Dirt nap." I'm sorry. The whole thing is just incredibly strange and it just makes me a little uncomfortable to think about. Anyways, I also bring that up because of where he's rumored to be buried, but let's keep it moving. So the GM at the time, I don't know if she still is a GM or not, but at the time of the Ghost Adventures filming, the GM, Macy Jane, love her name, she claims that a few people have told her that Anthony's body is buried in a tiny little room past one of the lounges that has a dirt floor. I'm not saying anybody did it. I'm not saying that he's there. Just saying that's the rumor. In that episode, she was asked who told her that, and she said that she wouldn't comment on it. Which I don't know that I would either, girl. That's scary. One, I'm trying to get my job, and two, I'm not trying to get killed. Macy also claims that she receives phone calls in the office that simply say, "Hi, it's me." She thinks this might be Anthony trying to reach out. And there's another employee named Rita who claims to have had her hair yanked, that she's felt people touching her, and that there's a girl spirit that's attached herself to her and she believes it to be negative, but that she communicates with her through text message. And before you get all skeptical, hear me out. From what she's saying, allegedly, is that she's in one location of the Viper Room, coming and going, doing whatever, doing inventory, so on and so forth, and that she'll receive text messages from a dead number. When she tries to call it, all she hears is static, but she'll receive text messages that say things like, "Why can't you see me? You're looking right at me." And she'll just respond out loud, "I'm sorry, but I just can't see you." And then she'll get another response responding to whatever she just said, or if she asks it a question, it responds with an answer. Is it real? Is it a prank? Is it for promotion of the club? I don't really know, but it sounds kind of creepy. I don't know. It's just also kind of interesting that she's not the only one receiving some sort of paranormal activity, if you will, like through her phone. And it's two people that work together in the same environment and potentially could be experiencing hauntings or interactions with similar spirits. So it's worth noting. But they're not the only two that are experiencing things at the Viper Room. No. There's another employee who's worked at the Viper Room for over 16 years at the time of the Ghost Adventure filming, named Tommy Black, who's also experienced some really weird things at the club. He's seen glasses fly from the bar to a bar mat, and he says that he's seen between 16 and 17 people pass out in the same spot at the edge of the bar, and he insists that it's not over-serving. Now, I'm not trying to say that you're over-serving.
Aha! We seem to have a skeptic in our midst.
Now I know, I love a good haunt just as much as the next person, but there's a part of me, being that I was a bartender for like 8 years, I'm showing my age, that thinks that some of it could be due to over-serving. Now, I do find it odd that it's happening in the same spot every time, so maybe there is something to that. But I know, even as a bartender, you may not realize that you over-served somebody. Some people just don't seem drunk until they seem really, really drunk. Well, I've had people come in and they seem so fine and so normal, and then I serve them 2 drinks and bam, they're on the floor. And I'm like, oh my God. And technically you're responsible for being the person who did it because you're the last person who served them, even though you may not have been aware of how much that they had previously. So you gotta be careful as a bartender sometimes. I digress though. So as you've probably already noticed, a lot of the experiences that we've discussed here today are predominantly staff, but I just want to remind you that the staff, if anybody, is going to have the most experience because they're there the most, right? So it really only makes sense that they would be the ones that have had the most experiences.
But I'd really like to know what you think in the comment section below. Do you believe that River Phoenix spirit still visits the Viper Room to this day? Or do you perhaps believe that Anthony Fox's body is in fact buried in that tiny little room with a dirt floor? Or are you of the belief that there are other unknown spirits or specters with unfinished business haunting 8852 Sunset Boulevard? Let me know in the comments below.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. It really, really helps me out. Thank you again to all of my new and old subscribers. You mean so much to me. I was gonna say the world, but I think that's a little intense. But you really do mean a lot to me, and I really appreciate it that you give me even just a little bit of time in your day. I think that's it. So. Your wretched little eyes. There it is. Oh no. Oh no, it's in the lashes.
So, what's it like being married to the #1 influencer in the world?
Loveless.
You get to watch her freaking clean up popcorn off the floor.
I was gonna say because you're not married to her, but that'll work. Ooh, toes. Don't show my toes. We don't give that away for free. You scared me again. Don't show my toes! I don't have a feet bands yet. Lots of dog hair mixed in there though. I really don't want to put those kernels in my freaking mouth. Don't need so much of the floor. Get my good side.
I mean, you could pick up some of the stuff off the floor and put that in your mouth.
Should have put it on the bottom. Maybe I'll do that. Housework is exhausting. There's gonna be dog hair in it. You know what you gotta help me do next?
Take a nap.
That's a good amount of floor popcorn to get me a nice heap going. Honestly, I don't know that I'm gonna need that much help.
I was gonna say, you don't need any help taking naps. You're pretty good at that.
All right. This is the most blandest popcorn ever. Sorry. It's everywhere.
Need to go to bed early.
Why?
Because I have to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Why? Nope.
So I can be at work by freaking 4:45.
Why?
Because someone's got to pay for all these props.
True. Popcorn's pretty cheap.
How fun cleaning that up?
Will you bring me the broom?
Look how you just don't